I'm fine, and yourself?
Yeah, good. What's with the big tin of heroes behind you?
Well, this is the start of my Christmas. Well, actually, it's the start of the Christmas shopping. But I just in case any trick or treaters turned up, but I've been hiding from trick or treaters. All the lights are off, and I went downstairs to get myself a good boy beer, and did it in the dark. Nearly fell down the stairs just because there's lots of little beggars running around the street,
Right.
and I had important things to do like this.
It is very important, but and the trick and treaters as well. I just think it's incredible that the parents go to the supermarket, spending 15, 20 quid on a costume that the kids will wear for about an hour or so, and then we'll just go to landfill because you can't recycle any of that plastic, can you?
What they could do is they could go, right, kids, I bought you a box of heroes, don't bother going trick or treating, and they save 10 quid.
Absolutely. Because there'll be an offer on the Christmas shopping there. But actually, as we both know, the place to go now for Christmas, I know we've done our Christmas thing, is garden centres, isn't it? Because garden centres are synonymous with Christmas.
I like what you did there. That was a really good segue. So you ought to do this properly.
You'd almost think it was planned or rehearsed or something, wouldn't you?
Yes. Look at that. We've got some visitors. We've got Zach, and we've got Henry Foxworthy, and we've got Chris Kirk.
Very good.
We've trebled last week's audience because
already. Yeah, that's very good. Well, welcome.
Did we forget to do last week? Send any in.
If anybody on this is expecting to learn anything whatsoever, you're in absolutely the wrong place.
Yeah, but if you might learn a thing or two about garden centres. So start us off, Peter. What's your beef with garden centres?
Garden, where do you start on garden centres? I think actually the title or what you're describing should actually be under the Trades Descriptions Act, really, because if you actually go to a garden centre with the expectation of buying something useful for your garden, you're in completely the wrong place, aren't you?
Yes, yeah, and there's plenty of stuff there, but the slightly going off piece a little bit here, but they usually have an annex at the side, which is something like what's it called, Lakeland or something like that sells other useless stuff like egg slicers and stuff like that.
Well, it is. If you actually looked at the area that the garden centre covers, you could probably say that the bit actually dedicated to plants and maybe compost and weed killer and things, maybe if it covers 10% of the area, that's a good garden centre if you actually want things for gardens. The key thing about a garden centre is it will have a cafe, generally frequented with lots of retired people, and it will have covered shopping area that will have items in it that you will have never seen in any other part or any other store, and books that you didn't even know needed writing, let alone publishing, and then seasonal sections, which obviously the Christmas part of the Christmas decorations in there and all the trinkets that go with Christmas probably have been on display from August bank holiday weekend.
Yes,
so,
yeah. I've got visions here of Zach zipping himself off to a garden centre now to go and buy an egg slicer.
Well, can I just say that I know that Zach's not all there. Zach is in the Royal Signals, so he's probably been standing too close to sort of your high frequency radio waves or something. So he's probably already fried his head.
Yeah, poor Zach. Never mind. He'll have an egg slicer anyway. Overpriced. Quite empty usually, aren't they? Because they're overpriced, but full of the Blue Rinse Brigade, overpriced coffees, soggy sandwiches.
There are certain clothing items as well. So you're very familiar with my posts on shit days out, and I have a thing about people going to attractions because they need to get out. But you will see retired couples generally in his and her matching anoraks or raincoats, generally in a shade or colour that you wouldn't see in any other shop, probably a subtle shade of puce or purple or maroon or something like that. And they'll be there. And the only place I've ever seen these jackets for sale would be in a garden centre. And down actually there, you've pointed out wolf fleeces as well. Fleeces with maybe embroidered floral motifs or something. You just wouldn't see them anywhere else.
I think Dan's on a roll here. He's looking at Bushman's holiday.
Yeah.
Anything else, Dan? Regatta trousers, gaiters.
But yeah,
there are some questionable produce there. Oh, what we've got here? Zach has come in with Trenton Gardeners and Bridgemere. So you obviously fish and chips.
Well, if you're going to Trentham, Zach, you've got to go to the monkey forest as well, haven't you, to see the most lethargic monkeys on the planet, because they're so well fed, they don't do anything, they just sit around.
We've got a similar one round our way that has a butterfly.
Well, yeah.
So you walk in there, pay an arm and a leg, and go and see some big butterflies. And there you go. So this is really good. Somebody from the Royal Singers with a sense of humour. Well done, Zach.
Very few and far between.
So anything else observation-wise about garden centres?
Well, offline, I know you and I sort of discuss garden centres, and I have this. I think there's a huge business opportunity because the clientele we know are generally past their best when they're frequenting these places, and I think that they could actually co-locate with a second-hand car dealership and a crematorium, and you have so many people go in there. I've never seen anybody leave a garden centre in that age group. So you could just do the whole sort of package, couldn't you? You get your elderly to go to the garden centre. They obviously shuffle off. You could dispatch them to the crematoria. You could buy flowers at the garden centre for the funeral service and everything.
And you could fertilise the flowers at the garden centre. So it's a circular economy, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. And then you could, and then the cars could then be sold on the second-hand car dealership. What more could you ask for?
Yeah, in fact, there's a Dobbies around our way. Other garden centres are available that has a We Buy Any car on site. So they're ahead of you there.
Excellent. Well, you see, natural.
But should we go over to the audience and see what they think about garden centres?
Yeah, should pick somebody at random and see.
Pick someone at random and bring them in.
Go for it.
Oh, who we got here?
Pick someone at random who happens to have their camera on.
Happens to have their camera on. Yeah.
Gentlemen, how are you?
Yeah.
Very well.
Not too bad yourself.
I was worried about you two until I started reading the comments from your audience. You've got nothing to worry about.
Simon, as you know, it's courtesy just to be abusive to guests on this. Could I just ask?
What opportunity I'm giving you?
I know. Could I just ask, when you go to the barber's fee, do you pay him for a finder's fee?
I can't remember going to the barber's. I stick my head out of a moving car window. That does it for me. I haven't been to a barber's for 30 years.
You just need a flannel and a buff.
Yeah. I'm just not too sure about my winter coat. That seems to come and go a bit. But every ballroom likes growing it down here, don't they?
You could, if you grew it a bit longer over the next few weeks, you could get a job in a garden centre.
I'm living in hope. I've got a great CV for it. I know what the interview questions are going to be. I'm all there. I think I'd make a good Father Christmas.
Excellent.
Without the dubious inferences of that, hopefully.
Yeah.
So,
there's an aside. Has anybody seen Bad Santa before? That was a hilarious one.
Simon, garden centres then.
Two thoughts on garden centres. I don't know if any of your audience have been there when they open, because I've been doing up my mother-in-law's garden for the last 2 or 3 days, building fences, which means I'll be back there doing it in 3 months' time inevitably. But it's mean that I need to go to garden centres near Oxford to buy stuff to take down to my mother-in-law in Sutton. So I've been there early doors. So they're meant to open at 9 o'clock. Not once has a garden centre opened on time. And there's a reason for that, because all the people who go to garden centres, not only do they not know their own names or where they park their car, have you seen those thousands of people wandering around garden centres with 2 pot plants and a bag of compost, wondering where the hell they left their car? Well, they have that problem, but they also don't know what time of day it is. So there's no point of a garden centre opening on time. So I was hanging around outside the garden centre yesterday morning for 15 minutes with a bunch of other people who were trying to recognise each other's faces, hoping that when they talk to each other, the other person would say their name, and they go, "That's who I am." So
we're not talking zombie apocalypse here, are we? We're actually talking people waiting to go into garden centres.
I try to find places in my life where I feel young. Garden centres, old man's gym, the tip. That works for me.
Well, we'll come back to the tip in a second, but you have just hit the nail on the head for me. On the odd occasion I stray into a garden centre to buy maybe a spade or a tree or something you would actually want to put in your garden. Why you just have elderly people meandering aimlessly across the car park. And you've just explained that to me now.
The thing is, they have no idea where their car is, or if they brought one. I mean, that's the other problem. Half of them will come by bus. And then try to give them direction to a bus stop. You might as well just give up.
And the garden centre will invariably have a pet centre where you can buy those jackets and things to put on dogs, because apparently dogs have struggled to survive for millennia with those thick furry coats on them, and mankind now has to give them a wax cotton one to get them through the winter.
And protect them from the rain, especially, because dogs don't like getting wet, do they?
No.
That would be about pet centres that don't actually have pets. I mean, I have a 7-year-old. He sees pet shop, or he expects there to be animals in there, and there are 1,000 things a dog can chew. None of them are food or a sofa, but they sell everything. But except for aquariums. Have you ever gone to a garden centre with a bolted-on fish shop?
Yes.
Millions of fish.
You should come to the Dobbies in Stirling. They have everything, just like that.
Little like treasure trove thingies that you put at the bottom, and archways for your fish. Literally, we can spend an hour in there, and Freddie comes out none the wiser. He has no idea what he's been looking at.
And why in these pet food places in garden centres do they sell vegan dog treats? When was the last time you met a vegetarian dog?
There's been a little bit of an outbreak about doggy ice cream in the last year or so as well. Have you seen that?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Selling doggy ice cream.
Yeah,
tastes the same. I found.
Yeah. Thing is, they can charge twice the amount. Has anybody worked out whether doggy ice cream is VAT free or not?
It's on the size and the age of the dog, I suspect. Yeah. I have a wife who can still buy her clothes VAT free because she's about 5'1". So she often will go to Boots to buy her clothes. It's not a good look, but it's really cheap.
And you're encouraging her to do that?
Again, I can't say that because, again, dubious inferences.
Yeah. So move away from that. So Simon, you were going to tell us about Old Man's Gym.
Old Man's Gym. So again, one of those few places I can go where I feel young. But you go to a tip, you do it Sunday afternoon or whatever, and all it is lots and lots of people in quite a lot of Volvos or 4x4s that have never seen a field, full of garden stuff, and they get a little bit sweaty, and they have this little competition. They run from the back of their car to the appropriate bin or whatever where they're putting stuff, and they just get sweaty. It's the only exercise these people get. So about 3 years ago, I started calling it Old Man's Gym. And now around here, people are saying, I'm going to Old Man's Gym. It's caught on more than anything else I've ever done. Not surprisingly, actually.
You've hit the nail on the head with the Old Man's Gym. It's not only the old man's gym, but you actually don't need garden centres anymore, because if you need stuff for the garden, you go to the Old Man's Gym, because half the people there are getting rid of stuff from their garden. So you can get free stuff to take back to your garden, and you haven't paid anything for the garden centre.
Zach is fast becoming my favourite characters on this course so far. So far, he's admitted to his love of Volvos, which shows a transparency and honesty that is really credible. And then also, I loved his line about his favourite frequency. That is something I will quote. I think it's on TV, Zach. It's brilliant.
He's in again. I think we've got a budding contestant for one of the next shows here in Zach. We need to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Could I just say that if you bring Zach on, he'll only speak in bleeps and whistles.
Just as in Morse code.
Yeah, that'll be it. You won't be able to get a word out. And I actually, Simon, ended up going to the tip yesterday, and it wasn't planned. I didn't do any research or anything for it. I just happened to coincidentally have to go to the tip. But I just found the whole experience so infuriating. In that I arrived, there was a woman parked her car up, lifted a bag of rubbish out, put it in the tip, wandered round, lifted a packet of wet wipes out of her car, walked round the car, cleaning all the dirt off the side of the car, then put the wet wipes in the skip, put the wet wipes out, closed the boot lid, got into the driver's seat. I thought, that's great. We're now going to be able to progress then to get our rubbish into the tip. But oh no, she got in, started the engine, put her seatbelt on, and then started texting somebody. So there's then a queue of traffic trying to get into the tip while she sorts out her personal life, whatever it does. Staggeringly.
I can only get my wife to go to
have you got the tips around your way? Have you got the guys? Say that again.
So I just said the only time I get my wife to go anywhere near a tip is when she wants a new Dyson, because there's always rows of them up there, just rows of Dyson. Yeah, and you maybe have to change a fuse in the plug or something.
Yeah. Just pick up 3, because you'll be able to get the working parts out of the 3 to get one good one, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And what's left over, you can probably build a time machine. Do you have the guys on the door that say they've got a barrier, and you drive up to the barrier and they say, what you got? Rubbish. Yeah,
if you turn up in a van, that blows their mind completely.
Yeah.
Go in a van and tell them that you are actually not a professional. That throws them completely. They don't know what to charge you, or if they should charge you or not. They get lost.
Well, we've got, where I live in Congleton, the council decided it was a really, really good idea to build about another 4,000 or 5,000 houses around it. So that would generally swell the population and therefore the refuge that comes with it. So as they started the construction of this, they closed our tip. And we've now got to drive 12 miles up the road to the nearest one in Cheshire, or we could go to the one 2 miles down the road in Staffordshire. But the one in Staffordshire won't let you in because you've got a Cheshire postcode. So being kind to the environment, we've now got to drive 12 miles up the road to get rid of our rubbish. There's no sense in that.
Postcode lottery. True Petrol, I'm just looking at, there's a brilliant chat going on, a sub chat going on between Dan and Zach. Yeah. Into new best buddies. So the old man's gym, garden centres, there's no need for both of them. You could combine the garden centre with the old man's gym, the funeral centre, and the car recycling place, and we're fast sorting out. There's just a go-to place for everything.
It is, and maybe you could have, for those that go to the garden centre and are just malingering, you just put an old people's home at the back. Then you get a holding area effectively. A bit like trying to get on a Ryanair flight, where they just take you through a thing and then they just put you in an area and then forget about you for a few hours. You can do that.
Yeah, and then well, yeah. This I think Ryanair is a whole new ballpark of a complete session, especially their little bag thingies. I think we've both flown with them just recently, haven't we?
Yes, never again. Never again.
We have
there's only one airline worse than the Ryanair, isn't there, Matt?
No, there's not.
No,
you look. Just because we get you to where you're going, it might be a bit bumpy sometimes, but usually get dropped off in the right place.
Yeah, but
we can take you to where there's.
As long as you only want to travel between Tuesday and Thursday lunchtime, because the rest of the time you're off.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and no ration packs involved. Right, I need the RAF. I need my RAF buddies to pile in here in defence.
But so Simon, just so that you're aware, if you ever fly with the RAF, you have to sit facing the back of the plane because apparently that's safer. If the plane hits a mountain, as long as you're facing backwards, when you hit it at 500 miles an hour, you'll be fine.
I have to say, if I ever flew with the RAF, I'd have the anticipation we would land safely. I mean, they have one job to do,
Thank you, Simon.
They have one job to do.
Landing, let's put it into perspective. The RAF landing, not really. A controlled crash is a better way of putting it.
He's harsh. He's a harsh man. I bet if you were in the middle of nowhere and a Chinook turned up, you'd be glad to see it.
I don't think it was bloody lucky.
As a civilian, I am only going to get myself in trouble if we start talking about different.
Yeah. No, pick a side, Simon.
The sides I'm allowed to pick for all have weapons of one sort or another. A bloke I used to go to school with, who's 2 years below me, and after school, primary school, we'd go to his house and we'd box in his bedroom. And we'd call it boxing, but in fact, I look back on it, he was 2 years younger than me. I was bullying him. Basically, I was bullying him, and it didn't seem like it at the time. Now I found out he got knighted in Her Majesty's final Christmas honours list because he basically ran the RAF for 10 years. So he won. He won. He's got an air force to beat the shit out of me with now. So that's fine. But I shouldn't get into that area.
But I have to say, I would like to say good things about the RAF, and they have some good jobs. It has to be said, and they generally stay in hotels and have a cushy life. But I know the job that I was always jealous of when I was in the army, and it was the guy who, I'm not making this up, was in the Royal Engineers, and he went round the world measuring gravity. And he would fly club class or first class and civilian airlines with a piece of equipment which apparently had a ball bearing in an evacuated tube, and he had to go around measuring the strength of gravity at different positions around the world because they needed that information to program cruise missiles. What a job!
Not bad. And as Dan said, always break down in places with good hotels.
Well,
and you should be really grateful for them because we don't eat all the ration packs. We'll eat decent food, drink gin and tonic, tea and cake, and leave the ration packs for you guys so you don't go starving.
Thank you very much for that. I was always really grateful to the RAF the time they broke down in Goose Bay in Newfoundland after we had been in the jungle for 6 months and was standing in our tropical uniforms in about -20 in an airport for 3 days that had nothing in it. Great.
A bit like Ryanair then.
Yeah, pretty much, but only worse.
To return briefly to the subject of garden centres, there's just one little tip I'd like to give. We talked about old people wandering around car parks, not knowing where they park their car. The next best thing to see is grandparents chasing their grandchildren into a soft play area. That is hours and hours of fun. I tell you, once they get in there, it's like what's that, the Cube or whatever. There's no way they're getting out. Their grandchildren come out. They've gotten a couple of pints from the bar, waiting for grandma and granddad to come out. 2 hours later, they're still lost in there. They can't find their way out.
Well, at least the benefit is that in their bewilderment, they won't get injured because it's all soft.
So
they just walk around and bounce off the walls.
Well, there is a garden centre in Congleton that now sells no plants and the cafe they've converted into some other purpose. But my daughter, on a part-time job now, they've changed all the sort of greenhouses and polytunnels into a soft play area, and parents turn up they drive from Liverpool and all over the place, so a good hour and a half drive to come to this place. And they book it online, and they said the session will be from 2 until 4 o'clock. So they turn up at 3:45 and say, well, you can come in, but it finishes in 15 minutes. And then they get really upset that they've been thrown out after 15 minutes, even though they paid 25 quid to let the kid in and another £5 to get them in to monitor their kids' behaviour. Unbelievable behaviour. Unbelievable.
We're taking down memory lane here.
Yeah. Goose Day, very dark, very scary, bears everywhere. Yeah, it's not a nice place.
I can't say I've had the pleasure. So
it wasn't a great airport because we landed. They brought us in on arrivals, and there was one escalator that came down into the hall, and we put our sleeping bags in the hall and everything. We were kind of left there for 2 days and shoveled white Haverdog rations in, and then they'd lock the doors again. And then when we came to leave, I'm not making this up, a guy appeared with a key, and he put it into the escalator, turned it, and the escalator went back up again, and we all got on the escalator to get back up on the aeroplane. Just
that to me, I feel guilty now. It never occurred to me that some of those old age benchers didn't get out of soft play. That's a real blow. But Zach's a really nice guy, so he genuinely enjoyed with sending that. Not sure if that's too dark. I mean, if it was dark, that would explain why they didn't get out. If starvation, Zach, you should have sorted it. But if it was, natural passing, it happens. In my view, it just happens.
Yeah, if they were wandering around in there for 3 or 4 weeks, then what do you expect?
Yeah. You should at least
just put that back up just in case anybody missed it. But, I could just there's a whole episode of something that you could sort of. I'm sure we've got it's almost like One Foot in the Grave type episode. They all go off and get lost.
A garden centre sitcom.
Yeah, a bit like Father Ted. Remember the Father Ted when they got lost in the lingerie department?
Yeah,
Christmas special.
Yeah.
I feel safe making these comments about old people because I'm nearly there. It's like I'm allowed to be rude about recruitment consultants because I used to be one. I can be rude about old people because I'm very nearly am one.
Yeah, and we'll just play this back to you when you reach the ripe old age.
I won't remember it next week. The memory's gone. So you have to.
What do you mean? What do you mean next week, Simon? You're pushing your luck there, aren't you? But 10 minutes.
It's this next 15 minutes that I worry about. I have to wait.
Yeah. What did you have for breakfast? This is the guy. This is the guy, right? Just so everybody knows, it rocks up a few minutes before because guess what? We actually invited Simon on. He wasn't a random selection, so don't worry, everybody else. Who rocked up about 3 or 4 minutes before saying, I can't find the link, can you send me the link? And in the chat, Simon, it was actually the next message up from the one.
And that's where I found it. And I thought they're just waiting for me to find it. But I must I popped in on when it was Thursday or Friday last week. But no, that's me in a nutshell. Somehow things come together, and if they don't, I'll blame someone else.
Yeah. And if they don't, then you just forget about it anyway.
Yeah.
I live this fantastic, perfect life because 15 minutes ago it didn't happen.
Yeah. Living there, it's a bit like a dog, isn't it? They just live in the present. my chocolate Labrador, she said, I got a chocolate and a black Labrador. The chocolate Labrador scoffed her food, and the other one wasn't eating it, so I just moved it to the side. And this chocolate one looks at me and goes, as if to say, well, where's mine? And she just finished it.
As far as I can remember, it's a long time since anyone's called me a dog, but I'm not sure.
Not that you can remember anyway.
No, I think Zach thinks he's going to get banned from here, but no, you're more than welcome. In fact, we've had so much fun having you on, Zach. We're going to get you in as a guest, I think, in future. And you can talk to us in Morse code and
use some whistles and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're rapidly approaching the allotted half hour. Time, but we can carry on rattling on like this for as long as anybody likes.
Until everyone disappears.
Yeah, we've now done Christmas. We've done cars. We've done garden centres. I'm really interested to have anybody on this call or later want to drop us a mail on them. Yeah, Zach, never volunteer for anything. I thought you'd have learned that by now.
Yeah, I'll take one step back.
Indeed. Do we have I was about to say, do we just have a session on trying to find positive things to say about the RAF? That could be a really short episode.
Right. Okay.
Or would anybody like to volunteer? what they would like to hear us, the two of us, rambling on inanely about.
Yeah, I mean, so things that we've talked about discussing coming up is sort of like things like pet hates and annoying habits and things like that. But if anybody wants to pitch in with a topic and come on and join us as a guest grumpy old man or woman, then feel free. I just realised that if I move my head to the right, I look like I've
talking pumpkin. Yeah. I wasn't going to point that out because it was a huge improvement.
Yeah, that's it.
I think Dan's probably worked out by now they're all cheap seats.
Yeah. But I mean, Ryanair were going to experiment with standing up seats, weren't they?
There was that. I don't know whether that was an April Fool's or not, but I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, well, it fooled me because I certainly wouldn't put it past them.
No.
Where would you put your bag? Because you have to put it under the seat in front of it.
I'd like to hear you two guys talk about the impact of mobile apps on your life.
Well, do you know what? I've got this wonderful this step counter app because I'm now in competition with my daughter because my daughter's on a gap year, works in a hotel, and she does a lot of steps a day. So we're in competition now with her on step count. So we both got the same step counter app. And we can compare on a daily basis. That's how exciting my life is sometimes.
Find the most useless app. I've got about 200 apps on my phone. I use about 6. So I'm going to look at the other 194 and work out why I downloaded them. I fell for something.
Well, it's just going back to the Steps app. My wife and I were on a holiday. There were far too many Americans in the same resort place that we were in, so that wasn't a great holiday to start with. And as you know, Americans like to let you know that they're American and they're here. And we were standing on the train platform in this foreign country, and there were 2 American men standing there, and they said, "Gee, Edgar, how many steps have you done?" And one was lagging behind the other. I am not making this up. They then started running up and down the station platform, getting a step count up whilst they waited for the train. Just bizarre behavioural things.
You see, Richard is a budding RAF guy. He has to fly. So if you need to fly, then yeah. So it was good. Thank you very much, Richard, for joining us. We're going to join this to a close in a minute because we've warbled on and started off on garden centres, and then we segued into geriatric gyms, and then we sort of like I think some people ridiculed the RAF for some strange reason. Then we got into Goose Bay, and neatly back around. 3 minutes overdue. We've had some fantastic engagement from everybody, and brilliant bit of banter. It wasn't included, so you brought your own and you did. Well done.
I don't think my wife was listening, but she's just passed me a note. I'm in a shed. She's just passed me a note saying, "Don't forget you're putting Freddie to bed."
Right.
So
hot news coming.
You're putting Freddie to bed. So
it's almost like a Tiswas thing, isn't it? News.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, we better let you go and put Freddie to bed.
I'm going to put Freddie to bed, guys. It's been
not
brilliant.
Kruger, I hope.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. But thank you very much, everybody. And
have a good evening, everyone. And we'll send invitations out for the next one.
Yeah, we'll see you next week, and the topic will be a surprise. Up the crabs. There you go. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys. Good night.